You were not replaced because another man was better. You were replaced because something in you became easy to own. And the worst part? You didn't even notice when it happened. She didn't leave immediately. She didn't suddenly turn cold. She didn't tell you she was losing respect for you. She just felt less. And while you were trying harder, giving more, explaining more, being more available, you were actually making yourself easier to replace, because attraction does not disappear all at once. It fades quietly. It fades when you become predictable. It fades when you become emotionally dependent. It fades when your presence no longer needs to be earned. And that is the part most men never see, because nothing looks broken in the beginning. She still replies. She still smiles. She still gives enough warmth to make you believe something real is building. You feel chosen because you are close. You feel safe because she is responsive. You feel important because she has given you access. But access is not the same as value. Machiavelli understood that people do not respond only to what is true. They respond to what something appears to be worth. In relationships, perception becomes dangerous because a man can have good intentions and still create the wrong emotional effect. You may intend loyalty. You may intend seriousness. You may intend care. But if your behavior feels needy, guaranteed, and dependent, your presence begins to lose weight. Your intention says, I care. Your pattern says, I need this to survive. And she can feel the difference. Most men think a woman replaces them because someone better arrives. A man with more money, more confidence, more status, more mystery. But often, the other man is not better. He is simply not yet possessed. He has not been fully mapped. He has not become part of the furniture. He still creates uncertainty. He still has mental space around him. He still feels like a world that has not been fully entered. That is why he becomes dangerous. Not because he proves you had no value, but because he reveals how cheaply you started carrying yours. At first, she was curious about you. She wanted to know what you thought, what moved you, what you believed, what kind of life you were building when no one was watching. There was distance, there was contrast, there was a question around you. Then, slowly, you filled every space. You answered too fast. You explained too much. You adjusted too easily. You apologized too quickly. You made her feel like your world could bend around her without cost. And anything without cost stops being measured carefully. This is where your value began to leak. You did not lose your position because you cared. You lost it when caring became your identity. You stopped being a man who could love from fullness and became a man who needed her reaction to feel complete. Her warmth became your proof. Her attention became your emotional weather. Her distance became a threat to your self-worth. At that moment, she was no longer entering your world. She became the world. And no woman can remain deeply attracted to a man who silently hands her that much power before she has earned it. She may enjoy the attention. She may enjoy being wanted. She may enjoy knowing she affects you. But attraction changes when desire coming from a man feels less like admiration and more like hunger. Hunger has pressure inside it. It asks to be fed. It does not simply offer. That pressure is what many men confuse with love. They say, I gave her everything. But that sentence is not always noble. Sometimes it is evidence. It reveals that you invested before observing. You trusted before testing consistency. You made yourself emotionally available before she demonstrated equal weight. You gave the whole table to someone who had not yet shown she knew how to sit with respect. And then you wondered why your presence stopped feeling rare. A man becomes easy to replace when he removes the conditions that make his presence meaningful. If he is ignored, he comes closer. If she pulls back, he gives more. If she becomes vague, he explains harder. If she disrespects him, he calls it patience. If she gives less, he searches for a reason to keep giving more. This is not devotion. It is a negotiation against yourself. So the first secret is not about women choosing someone else. It is about how a man teaches someone that his presence is guaranteed. And when your presence is guaranteed, it becomes background. Background can be comforting. It can be familiar. It can even be useful. But it is rarely desired with urgency. This is why the real question is not, why did she replace me? The deeper question is, when did I make myself easy to replace? That question hurts because it removes the comfort of innocence. It does not say she was right. It does not excuse dishonesty. It does not defend cruelty, but it forces you to recover the only part of the story you can control, your frame. Because once you see where your frame collapsed, you can stop calling collapse love. You can stop believing that constant access equals loyalty. You can stop mistaking emotional dependence for depth. A man with a frame can care without orbiting. He can desire without begging. He can be present without becoming possessed. His love has weight because his life has weight. And this is what makes him harder to replace. Not because no one can leave him. Anyone can leave anyone. But because leaving him means losing something real, not someone already waiting to be owned. She is not only attracted to your attention, she is attracted to the world your attention comes from. Most men believe attention is the main currency of desire. So when they like a woman, they spend it without discipline. They text first. They check in often. They become available at any hour. They offer emotional presence before they know whether she respects it. At first, this looks like strength. It feels mature, honest, serious, and different from the careless men she may have known before. You tell yourself you are showing consistency. You tell yourself you are proving that you are not playing games. You tell yourself real love should be obvious. But female psychology measures the source. Attention from a full life feels selected. Attention from emptiness feels heavy. There is a brutal difference between a man sharing his energy and a man asking a woman to become the source of it. When a man has a world, his attention has value because it competes with meaning, work, friends, discipline, goals, silence, private thoughts, a body he trains, a craft he improves, a direction that existed before her and will continue if she leaves. When that man gives attention, it feels chosen. But when a man has no world, his attention feels like waiting. It feels like he has been sitting by the door, hoping she opens it. Beneath every thoughtful message is a hidden request. Make me feel important. That request becomes tiring. A woman may want to be loved, but she does not want to become the emotional center of a man who abandoned his own center. She may enjoy being desired, but she can feel when desire becomes a rescue rope. She may appreciate effort, but effort, mixed with fear, changes shape. The man with a world understands this without needing to announce it. He does not become distant to manipulate. He simply remains involved in his own life. When he is with her, he is present. When he is not with her, he is not emotionally suspended. He still moves. He still builds. He still exists. This creates psychological tension, not toxic tension, not childish games, real tension. The tension of knowing his attention is valuable because it is not desperate. The tension of knowing his time has other meaningful places to go. The tension of knowing his life will continue without begging for permission. This tension carries dignity. Machiavelli would recognize this immediately. A ruler who depends entirely on another kingdom becomes weak, even if the alliance feels warm. A man who depends entirely on female validation becomes weak in the same way. He loses sovereignty, and once sovereignty disappears, every gesture begins to carry need. Need changes the atmosphere. His jokes seek approval. His silence becomes anxiety. His patience becomes fear, disguised as maturity. His kindness becomes a hidden contract. I give this, so please do not leave. Women feel contracts even when men never speak them. A whole man does not need constant confirmation. He can be warm without becoming empty. He can be generous without bleeding himself dry. He can listen deeply without turning her mood into the authority over his day. He has enough inner structure to let love enter without letting it take over the entire house. This is where calibrated presence becomes important. Most men live in extremes. Either they are absent and guarded, or constantly present, over-explaining, over-giving, and over-investing. Both extremes weaken desire. Total absence communicates disinterest. Constant presence communicates desperation. Calibrated presence is different. It means your availability changes naturally because your life is real. Sometimes you are deeply present. Sometimes you are focused elsewhere. Sometimes your replies are thoughtful and slow because you are working, training, building, thinking, recovering, or simply living. You are not pretending to be busy. You are not manufacturing distance. Your life creates the rhythm. That rhythm gives your presence contrast. Without contrast, even good attention becomes flat. If every message receives the same urgency, every silence gets filled, every plan is adjusted, and every emotional shift becomes your emergency, then nothing has texture. The connection becomes predictable. Predictability may feel safe, but without curiosity, safety becomes dull. This is where many men become replaceable. They remove every unknown because they think uncertainty is dangerous. They reveal everything. They reassure constantly. They stay available. They make sure she never has to wonder. And then they are surprised when she stops wondering. But wondering is part of desire. Not wondering whether you are honest. Not wondering whether you are cruel. Not wondering whether you care. Those are unhealthy doubts. The deeper wondering is different. It is the sense that there is more to you than the current interaction. More depth, more direction, more private strength, more life. If there is no more, the mind stops reaching. So the error is clear. You were not replaced because you gave attention. You were replaced because your attention no longer came from a world she respected. You made her the source instead of the recipient. That is the reversal. And once she becomes the source of your energy, she eventually feels the burden of supplying what you should have built within yourself. She begins to feel that her reply controls your mood, her warmth controls your confidence, and her distance controls your identity. That is too much power for any attraction to hold cleanly. The man who keeps his world does not need to say, "I am valuable." His life says it before he speaks. His schedule, his standards, his silence, his discipline, and his emotional stability communicate that he has a center. And when he gives attention, it lands differently. It does not ask to be validated. It does not beg to be returned. It does not collapse if it is not immediately mirrored. It is offered from fullness. That is why it has weight. And weight is what separates a man who is desired from a man who is simply available. Most men think the danger is what she does. She pulls back. She becomes vague. She cancels plans. She gives less energy. She creates distance where there used to be warmth. So the man studies her behavior like it is a code. He asks what it means. He wonders whether she is losing interest. He tries to decode every pause, every word, every delay. But while he is watching her, he forgets that she is also watching him. Not always consciously. Not like a strategist writing a plan. Sometimes people test without knowing they are testing. Sometimes insecurity pushes. Sometimes boredom withdraws. Sometimes disrespect appears because it has learned there is no real cost. But conscious or not, the test reveals your structure. When she pulls away and you panic, you reveal dependency. When she gives vague answers and you over-explain, you reveal fear. When she disrespects you and you laugh it off, you reveal that your boundary is negotiable. When she gives less and you give more, you reveal that imbalance will not make you leave. This is where a man must slow down. Not to become colder, but to become clearer. The question is not only whether she is difficult, the question is whether your own reaction is still governed by fear, hunger, approval, and the desperate need to be chosen again today. This is where men lose power without noticing. They focus on her behavior, but they ignore what their reaction teaches. Every reaction is instruction. You teach people how much access they have to your emotional system. You teach them what they can disrupt. You teach them whether your standards are real or decorative. Machiavelli understood that power is rarely announced. It is revealed through consequence. A boundary without consequence is not a boundary. It is a request. And requests that can be ignored without cost eventually lose force. This is why standards matter. Most men do not have standards. They have hopes. They hope she respects them. They hope she communicates better. They hope she appreciates their effort. They hope she stops doing the thing that makes them feel small. But hope is weak when it is not backed by action. An unshakable standard is different. It does not scream, threaten, or beg. It simply knows what it accepts. If respect decreases, access decreases. If effort disappears, investment decreases. If the pattern continues, the man leaves with clarity. This is not cruelty. Cruelty wants to wound. A boundary refuses to disappear. The man sees the small signs. He knows the tone was disrespectful. He knows the cancellation was careless. He knows the affection has become conditional. But instead of acting, he argues against himself. Maybe she is tired. Maybe I am overthinking. Maybe I should be more patient. Maybe this is what love requires. And this is how a man participates in his own lowering. He is not blind. He is attached. Attachment can make intelligent men betray their own perception. It does not remove the truth. It only makes the truth too expensive to admit. Because admitting it would require a decision, and decisions create loss. So he chooses confusion. Confusion is painful, but often easier than action. In confusion, he can still hope. In clarity, he must move. A man who cannot tolerate tension becomes easy to control. Give him silence, and he chases. Give him coldness, and he performs. Give him uncertainty, and he starts selling himself. His fear becomes visible, and once fear becomes visible, the dynamic changes. She may not hate him, she may even feel sorry for him, but pity is not attraction. Respect is, and respect grows when a man can remain centered under pressure. If she pulls back, he observes. If she creates confusion, he does not chase clarity from her like a starving man. If she crosses a line, he names it once and adjusts. If the pattern repeats, he lets distance speak. This is where proportional investment becomes essential. Give curiosity where curiosity is returned. Give depth where depth is respected. Give effort where effort is matched. Give trust where consistency has been proven. But do not give devotion to confusion. Do not give your whole table to someone offering crumbs. Do not pour more into a place that treats your pouring as guaranteed. That is not manipulation. It is intelligent self-respect. The replaceable man invests based on hope. The grounded man invests based on evidence. That one difference changes everything, because people respect what they must participate in earning. If your attention, forgiveness, patience, and depth are given regardless of treatment, she does not need to show more to receive more, and eventually, the door becomes ordinary. This is the third secret. She is not only responding to you, she is responding to the way you respond to pressure. Your reaction tells her whether you are whole or hungry, whether you have standards or wishes, whether your love has weight, or whether it is simply fear of being alone. And once she knows you will abandon yourself to keep access to her, you are no longer a mystery. You are a pattern. Patterns can be managed, and what can be managed is rarely feared, rarely respected, and easily replaced. You were not only trying to love her, you were trying to be confirmed by her. That is the deepest secret, and it is the one most men avoid because it feels too close to shame. Her attention did not merely make you happy, it made you feel real. It made your doubts grow quiet. It made you feel chosen by something outside yourself, and for a while, that felt like strength. This is why her distance hurt like a verdict. When she replied less, you felt your value falling. When she became cold, you felt exposed. When she chose someone else, it felt like proof. Proof that you were not enough. Proof that you had been temporary. Proof that the part of you that feared being replaceable had been right all along. But that proof was false. It felt true because you had placed your worth in unstable hands. This is the hidden wound beneath replaceability. A man becomes easiest to replace when he uses someone else's desire as evidence of his own value. He may call it love, he may call it loyalty, he may call it devotion, but beneath the beautiful language is a quiet bargain. Choose me, so I can stop feeling unchosen. That bargain controls him. If she gives warmth, he feels strong. If she withdraws, he collapses. If she admires him, he feels masculine. If she becomes indifferent, he starts bargaining with himself. He changes his tone. He changes his boundaries. He changes his standards. He changes his schedule. He changes his silence into explanation. He does not realize he is disappearing. Many men are not replaced by another man first. They are replaced by the version of themselves that vanishes during the attempt to be chosen. The man with standards disappears. The man with direction disappears. The man with silence disappears. The man who once had weight becomes a man who asks for emotional permission to exist. This is where what he called love becomes mixed with fear. Fear of losing access, fear of being alone, Fear of watching someone else receive the warmth he once received. Fear that if she leaves, the emptiness underneath will have no one left to blame. That does not mean the love was fake. Human beings are rarely that simple. You can love someone and still be afraid. You can care deeply and still be dependent. You can give sincerely and still hope that giving will protect you from being abandoned. The problem was not that you cared. The problem was that your care became a strategy against abandonment. You gave more so she would not leave. You stayed quiet so she would not pull away. You accepted less so the connection would not break. You became easy to manage because you thought that would make you easy to love. But the more you tried to secure your position, the more replaceable you became. Real security cannot be begged into existence. It must be felt through respect. And respect requires one thing many men fear: the possibility that you will leave when your dignity is repeatedly lowered. Without that possibility, your love has no edge. Your standards have no consequence. Your patience becomes permission. Your loyalty becomes a place where someone can rest without responsibility. Machiavelli would ask the only question that matters in any power dynamic: what does this arrangement produce? Not, what did you intend? Not, what did she promise? What does the arrangement produce now? If it produces anxiety in you, entitlement in her, and a slow loss of self-respect, then the dynamic is teaching both people the wrong lesson. It teaches you to abandon yourself. It teaches her that your abandonment has no cost. This is why the answer is not bitterness. Bitter men blame women for the wound. Awake men study the wound and recover their center. There is a massive difference. Bitterness still gives her the throne because your identity remains organized around what she did. Awareness takes the throne back. It says, I will not turn someone else's inability to value me into proof that I have no value. That is self-possession. And self-possession is the only real antidote to replaceability. A self-possessed man can be hurt, but he does not become empty. He can grieve, but he does not negotiate his dignity. He can miss her, but he does not chase himself into humiliation. He can love, but he does not orbit. He can give, but he does not bleed himself dry. This is the man who becomes difficult to replace, not because no woman can leave him. Anyone can leave anyone. Not because he manipulates emotions, not because he plays cold games, not because he pretends not to care. He becomes difficult to replace because he is not easy to reduce. There is more to him than access, attention, agreement, and availability. He has a world, standards, boundaries, emotional contrast, depth, and a center that does not move every time someone changes tone. When he loves, it is choice, not hunger. When he gives, it is generosity, not self-erasure. When he walks away, it is not punishment. It is the end of self-betrayal. That is the final payoff. You do not become irreplaceable by forcing a woman to choose you. You become harder to replace by no longer abandoning yourself to be chosen. That is where the game changes. Love stops being fear. Need becomes choice. Attention regains weight. Silence becomes clean. And the man who once begged to be seen finally returns to the life he should never have left. The cold truth is simple. You were not replaced by another man. You were replaced by the version of you that disappeared first. Do not let him disappear again.